You need to read between the lines here, because this is desperation. This is pure desperation. People setting homes on fire to get out of deals is absolutely crazy. The Canadian housing market is crashing so hard that people are burning down their homes. Now, we covered this before, but the situation has got a lot worse, and now even the mainstream media is covering it and shedding some light on what is going on here. So we're going to go through some of the videos on what exactly is happening and see what is going on here. So Canadian real estate arson may rise as economy slows, warns insurer. And just think about that for a second, because the economy right now, it's going to get a lot worse. So this is just going to increase, as we would expect if we believe if it's true what they say there. So the only bond stronger than a mother and its baby is the one between rising interest rates and the arson of new homes under construction. Commercial insurer Northbridge Insurance is warning home builders to look out for arsonists. In a letter this week, the firm explained they expect new home arson to rise as financial conditions erode. So it's kind of crazy what's going on. This past afternoon, firefighters in the Toronto suburb of Burlington were called out to put out a fire at 2 homes under construction. They made short work of it. 2 days later, they were called to the same address, and this time the fire was a lot bigger, ensuring the new homes were burnt to the ground. Police labeled it suspicious. Oh yeah, just suspicious, which isn't a surprise. This is part of a broader trend that has been recently on the rise, and we covered it before on this channel, but my god, there's been so many of these arsons that have been happening. So if you look at this video here, it shows basically what's going on. So you can see lights up the house, runs off. Yeah, that's not suspicious at all, is it? I mean, good lord, just kind of crazy. And then if we head down in this article, it talks about the investment side of things, which makes perfect sense. So pre-construction buyers aren't buying a home, they're committing to buying a future home. As a result, they only have to provide funds for the deposit schedule, not the whole amount. It's not until the home is fully built that the buyer needs to provide financing and apply for a mortgage. That can be a problem. And it can be a problem because what you've had happen in places like Ontario is people have been speculating on pre-construction assignments, which is basically where you're trading the contract to buy a home at a future date and making money off it. That's what a lot of people were doing in 2021. So it's kind of unregulated, and it's like a leveraged option when you really think about it, because the home you've committed to purchase, if you're not actually going to purchase that home, you're just literally using the leverage, and it means that people can make drastic amounts of money. But when things go south and the housing market heads down, like what's happened in 2023 and 2022, obviously that means that people are looking for a way out, and unfortunately sometimes that means arson. So the value of a home can change drastically between the pre-sale and the finishing phase. Generally, home values have increased, resulting in more equity and easier financing. When home prices fall, the buyer still owes the same amount they committed to initially, but the lender will only lend on the current value. That can require topping up the deposit with money buyers don't have. The problem was compounded by the rise of investors during low rates. Wait, what? I thought it was all these immigrants that were buying home. I didn't think it was investors. I mean, God, where did they get? We're just going to build our way out of this crisis because investors aren't buying homes now, are they? We'll get into that in a second, don't you worry. So anyway, the problem was compounded by the rise of investors during low rates. Since they don't have to secure financing for the whole home, speculators have been buying pre-construction to flip before the financing is due. For a few $1,000s, they can buy into a significant amount of leverage. And this is unregulated. It's completely crazy. It's like options, but just totally unregulated on the housing market. I mean, this is how financialized the housing market has become in Canada, guys. It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? But this is literally what's happening. And this basically shows you, this person put it up, landlord rescue. Here, melt your brain using land math. And it basically shows you all these prices, and you're probably looking at the profit figures and thinking, well, how does that work? That makes no sense, Luke. How on earth is that even possible? And it explains it here. A number of projects were sold to investors with math based on the return of the deposit. So they're not talking about the appreciation of the actual home once it's complete. They're actually talking about the appreciation of the deposit that you initially put in. And because you're trading essentially this option to buy the home and the home value, you're just assuming is going to go up. That means you you can make a big return on that deposit money that you have. So this lured a lot of people in. And this shows you guys how speculative the housing market got in Canada. I know a lot of people don't realize it. We believe it on this channel. We know about it on this channel. But the housing market became totally financialized and speculative during that mania that happened in 2021 and even bled into 2022 and is even going on still in certain areas of the country. So it's kind of crazy what is happening, but people just don't learn their lessons. Apparently they just move to other places until it all goes wrong there, and then they're completely fucked essentially. So many investors got the bright idea of getting that leverage return without actually closing. They would try and flip the property before the completion, potentially landing a leverage return without qualifying for financing. When Statistics Canada did the math showing new construction is dominated by investors, they looked only at ownership. That means they missed everyone who bought a pre-construction home and flipped it before it was built. The share of pre-construction owned by investors, speculators, is much higher, and obviously that increases the demand when these pre-construction sales are happening, and that's why you see lines out of the door sometimes for these pre-construction sales that are opening. And it wasn't because people wanted to actually buy those homes. Most of them were just investors and they were just speculating. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy to people in a lot of countries to hear this type of thing. They would have that outside view and just, they'd be like, that is insane. It's kind of like when I told my parents and I said to them, yeah, this is what's happening with this fixed payment variable rate mortgages in Canada. And they were like, that is just so risky. That's so bad. But people here just accept it, acknowledge it, and think everything's going to be okay. It's just part of the parcel of this housing market. So anyway, it's just kind of crazy where we've been. And now I wanted to show you this. Most of Canada's new condos are still investor owned, says Stats Canada. This is October 20th, 2020. But if you look at the investor ownership of condos, you can see here, guys, that it is not immigrants that are buying these condos. It is mostly speculators and investors. I mean, the fact is 90% of the people buying today and who've bought over the past couple of years is speculating, because you cannot make the numbers work anywhere, at least that I've found, because I've tried to make sense of it. I've thought maybe they're making money, but they're not. They're losing money. So they're just speculating basically on that future price growth. And it's just crazy. And then I want to go over to these few tweets. So another house goes up in flames and collapses last night with a sold sign on the front lawn. This is what happens when you buy a $1.5 million shitbox and have buyer's remorse. Guest buyer couldn't hold out for the massive rate cuts that are around the corner. Yeah, Economic Woes, he put some great stuff on X, and he's really been covering this quite well with all the different fires. I mean, this is up to 30 pre-construction homes lit up in Vaughan. You can see what's happening, and it is not good at all. So it's just kind of crazy the amount of fires that are happening in Canada, the amount of people. I mean, this is another one that happened in Burlington that Shazzy put on Twitter, and you can see that there's multiple pre-construction homes that are on fire there. So, you know, people who say, oh, it's only a few homes, it's not that many, everything's going to be fine, nothing's going wrong. You need to read between the lines here, because this is desperation. This is pure desperation. And a lot of these people are coming from countries where essentially there isn't much law and order. So they think that setting a house on fire, that's a perfectly acceptable way that you can get out of a deal. You know, the thing is, it's just absolutely crazy and insane what is going on in Canada's housing market right now. Many of you will realize that, but people setting homes on fire to get out of deals is absolutely crazy. And I remember first time when I did that video, I had somebody comment on it, only one person, who said, Luke, it's only a couple of houses. And I was like, are you brain dead? You just have to look online. There's hundreds of these homes that keep getting set on fire. You've even got an insurance company that is coming out and saying, hey, we need to be worried about arson on new construction homes. So that shows you what a precarious situation that we're in right now. So anyway, I want to thank you so much for watching. If you're looking for a VPN, go to expressvpn.com/market mania to get around Trudeau's censorship ownership laws and Bill C-11. If you've enjoyed this video, you might like this video here. You might also like this video here, which I did about the arson a while ago. I will see you in the next one. Happy New Year. Thanks. Bye-bye.